The story is based on real events that took place in Cleveland, Ohio in the 1970s. Danny Greene, a reputed Irish mobster, drives his expensive Cadillac through the poor neighborhoods of the city. A malfunctioning radio attracts his attention. Danny quickly leaves the car, barely surviving an assassination attempt. Despite almost losing his life, Danny is cheerful and yells to his assassins, daring them to finish the job. Going back to when Danny was a child, he was an orphan growing up on the east side of Cleveland in the 1940s. Even though he was a good athlete, school held no interest for him, as Danny was already on his way to the wrong path. Growing up in poor conditions, he deeply admired mobsters that dressed up in flashy suits and drove expensive cars. After school, Danny and his best friend often had to defend themselves from the group of aggressive Sicilian kids who tormented them for years. Many years later, in 1960, an adult Danny Greene seeks employment on the Cleveland docks, along with his childhood friends Billy McComber and Art Sneppiger. The labor conditions are rather harsh, but Danny cheers himself up by reading. The burning sun turns a silo with grain into an oven. When Danny's friend Art loses consciousness from the heat, he quickly stops the unloading machine and rushes to get his friend outside. Despite the unsafe temperatures inside, a union boss, Jerry Murky, a corrupt, ruthless individual, orders Danny and the others to go back inside and finish the job by the end of the day, or they're fired. Enraged by the cruel treatment from his boss, Danny holds himself back and reluctantly goes back to work, while Murk's henchman gets the unconscious Art into a bathtub with ice water. In the evenings, Danny and his friends spend their time drinking in a local bar. Art and Billy flirt with a charming waitress, Joan Madigan, but she lays her eyes on their mysterious friend Danny, who likes to read in solitude. The two get acquainted and immediately like each other. Joan gives him her number. Sometime later, Art, being a compulsive gambler, gets himself in trouble with the mob. He asks Danny to go talk to them. Danny confidently approaches John Nardi, a capo in the Cleveland crime family, and asks him to give Art more time. Amazed by his boldness, John calms his men that got angry with Danny for the uninvited visit and has a chat with him about their mutual problem. Danny walks out and informs Art that he took care of it. He is very angry with Art and demands that he never gamble again. To settle Art's debt, Danny helps the mobsters to steal goods from the containers in the docks, developing a lifelong connection with John Nardi. A few days later, Murky calls Danny into his office. Danny intends to run against Murky in the upcoming Union president election, so Murky tries to intimidate him. He knows all about Danny's involvement with the mob in the container yard and demands a cut from the money they've been making. Otherwise, he will report Danny to the police. Murka sends his henchman Joe Buca to collect the money at midnight. Danny throws him the money, but Buca takes out his gun, intending to eliminate his boss's rival. However, Danny is not afraid. He cheerfully makes jokes about the henchman being Polish, trying to manipulate Buca into fighting him instead. It works, and Danny easily beats up the henchman, leaving him unconscious and taking back his money. Sometime later, Murky walks into his office, shocked to see Danny in his chair. Murky calls Buca to come inside. Danny symbolically throws the henchman's glasses on the floor and approaches Murka. He slaps Murky multiple times, takes his gun, and tells him to get out. Shortly afterwards, Danny is elected the new Union president, celebrated by his fellow workers, after which he and his girlfriend Joan happily get married. As a Union president, Danny immediately starts changing the docks, improving the working conditions for his men. He is very confident in his new position, forcing his way on his subordinates and business partners, breaking the old rules. One night, Cleveland police detective Joe Manditsky, who grew up with Danny, observes him having a meeting with John Nardi and John Scalish, the boss of the Cleveland crime family. Danny recognizes Manditsky and salutes him. He asks the bartender to pay for his drinks, but the policeman refuses the offer and keeps his distance from Danny and his mob friends. Things go well for Danny. He makes a lot of money with John and his crew, allowing him to buy a new house where he will live with his wife Joan and their newborn baby. Steve Marshak, a local news reporter, conducts surveillance on Danny and John. He approaches Manditsky, giving him a heads up that he's going to publish a rather shocking story in his newspaper, uncovering Danny's corruption. The story is released. Danny reads the newspaper, saddened that his days as Union president are over. As Art and Billy collect the incriminating evidence, intending to dispose of it, Danny sits down in his chair and refuses to run, letting his friends go on without him. He quietly sits in the room, listening to the police sirens approaching the docks. Danny is subsequently arrested and charged with grand larceny, extortion, and labor racketeering. He is visited by Joan, who informs him that after paying the lawyers, she is left broke, having to sell the house. Danny is getting desperate. The FBI agents approach him with a proposition to reduce the charges and release him in exchange for him becoming an informant for the FBI. Unwilling to go to prison, Danny reluctantly agrees to their terms. After he is released from jail, Danny takes his family, Joan, and his 2 daughters to their new house in Collinwood, the poor, dangerous neighborhood. Joan is unhappy with their new residence, having a gang of bikers as neighbors. Danny asks John to give him some work, so he introduces him to Shondor Burns, a Jewish bookie and loan shark, who needs an enforcer to collect the debts from the people who owe him money. Danny accepts the job and starts aggressively chasing the gamblers. Once a week, he calls the FBI and reports to them on what he's been doing. Burns works with various criminal organizations throughout the city. They combine their efforts in looking for the people that owe them money. Danny befriends Mike Fratto, the garbage man who owns his truck. He invites Fratto to have a barbecue at his house. Getting tired of bikers having wild parties near his house, Danny goes out to them and confronts them about the noise. They rudely send him away, so Danny and his friends came back with guns. Danny has a fight with the leader of the bikers. Being a tough fighter, Danny easily defeats the biker and continues viciously beating him up. Joan and the daughters observe the fight, shocked by Danny's brutality. Sometime later, John introduces Danny to Jack Licavoli, a capo in the Cleveland crime family, and proposes to Jack that Danny be put in charge of forcing the city's garbage haulers to join the union controlled by the mob. Impressed with Danny's earlier work in the docks and later with Shondor Burns, Jack agrees to the proposal. Danny befriends Keith Ritson, an Irish tough guy who wants to work for Danny, after which the crew approach the garbage men and beat up those who refuse to join the union. One day, Danny has an interesting conversation with one of his neighbors, Grace O'Keefe, a tough Irish old woman. Danny likes her spicy attitude, but she openly admits she doesn't like him at all. Danny pays a visit to Mike Fratto's house. Mike has many kids. He is happy with his family. Danny reluctantly admits that this isn't a social visit. He came to persuade Mike into joining the union. Feeling betrayed, Mike curses at Danny and rudely refuses to join the mob-controlled union. Unwilling to hurt his friend, Danny leaves. Jack Licavoli isn't happy with Danny's conduct regarding Fratto. Jack makes it perfectly clear that Mike Fratto sealed his fate the moment he refused to join the union. Either Danny and John take him out, or others will. Persuaded by John, who vouched for Danny, putting his reputation on the line, Danny reluctantly agrees to eliminate Mike Fratto. He talks about it with his crew, and they decide that the best way to do it is to use a remote-controlled bomb. Danny is informed by his sources in the police that Art Snepperger was arrested for trying to steal an expensive car, trying to pay off his gambling debts. The police detectives have convinced him to testify against Danny. Shocked by the betrayal of his dear friend, Danny decides to go after Mike Fratto tonight. He gives Art the package with a bomb and orders him to put it under Fratto's car. Art approaches the car and activates the bomb. He climbs under the vehicle and tries to attach it to the bottom. Saddened by what he has to do, Danny reluctantly sets the bomb to go off and leaves the scene in a hurry as enraged Fratto goes out of his house and yells at him. Sometime later, Danny goes to exercise in the park. A car approaches him at full speed, almost ramming Danny. It's Fratto. He is understandably furious about the assassination attempt and intends to shoot Danny. He opens fire but misses. Danny returns fire and hits Fratto in the head, taking his life. When Danny approaches the car, intending to finish the two inside, Fratto's driver surrenders. Following the outrage in the media, Danny is subsequently arrested by Joe Manditsky. As he explained to Joe, it was self-defense. Mike Fratto opened fire first, so Danny had no choice but to shoot back. Fratto's driver, who was also arrested by the police, corroborates this part of Danny's story. Joe is annoyed that his superiors ordered him to release Danny as they have nothing to hold him on. He threatens Danny that he will put him away at some point, but Danny is not afraid. He gloats over his victory. Danny drives back to his house. He is surprised to see Joan and the kids sitting in another car. She is leaving Danny and taking the kids, having had enough of his criminal lifestyle. 4 years later, Danny and his crew are still working for the mob. One day, he drives back home and observes the movers take stuff from Grace O'Keefe's house. Apparently, she can't pay the rent, so the landlord is evicting her. She doesn't take it very well, cursing the movers and the landlord. Danny interferes and pays the movers all the money that she owes the landlord. Surprised by his generosity, Grace asks him inside and offers him a drink. The two, surprisingly, have much in common. They both admire the rich culture of Ireland, taking great pride in being the descendants of ancient Celtic warriors. Despite Danny being a criminal, Grace believes there is a bit of good in him after all. She gives him a golden cross on a chain that belonged to her father as a gift. Danny is being quite generous towards all the people in Collinwood. He helps the orphans, funds the local schools, gives away turkeys on Thanksgiving and on Christmas, earning himself a catchy name in the press, Robin Hood of Collinwood. Later, Danny has dinner with Burns. Danny wants to open a classy restaurant and lounge. He asks Burns to loan him $70,000. Burns agrees on the condition that it's the Gambino family from New York who will loan this money to Danny, while Burns will just vouch for him. Danny is very enthusiastic about the future restaurant that will be called the Dublin Public House. One night, Danny gets acquainted with a woman working in the greengrocer, Ellie O'Hara. He goes back later and asks her out on a date. A manager comes out and yells at her for talking while she has work to do. Realizing that it was Danny Greene that she was talking to, he quickly apologizes and leaves the two alone. Despite being on the opposite sides of the law, Joe Manditsky and Danny ended up both coaching the youth baseball team, almost becoming friends. In South Bronx, New York, Burns's courier, that was supposed to deliver the mob money to Danny in Cleveland, tried to buy drugs with it and ended up arrested along with the money. Burns informs Danny about the unfortunate development and explains to him that despite of what happened, the Gambino family will want their money back from Danny. Danny doesn't see it that way. He wasn't the one to hire the unreliable courier. Burns did. So, the two have a heated discussion about who has to pay the money. Danny is adamant. He won't pay the money he didn't lose. Offended by Danny's harsh words, Burns leaves in his car. Burns puts a contract on Danny, $25,000 to whoever takes him out. During lunch, John informs Danny about it, but he doesn't seem to take it very seriously. John advises him to just pay the money to Burns and move on with his life, but Danny refuses out of pride. They walk out of the restaurant and Danny departs in his Cadillac. During the drive, he notices the strange noises coming out of his radio and hastily leaves the car. John hears the explosion nearby and notices the parking attendant running away. It was the parking attendant that had put a bomb in Danny's car earlier. John drives to see what happened. Having survived the explosion, Danny yells in the street. Danny spots John's car approaching and sits inside. After the assassination attempt, Manditsky orders a 24-hour tail on Danny to monitor everything he does. Ellie and Danny are getting to know each other. She notices the police escort that followed them earlier. Despite Danny's questionable reputation, Ellie likes him a lot. Unable to conduct business in public because of the police, Danny orders Keith and Billy to meet him in an alley behind his house. They collect Danny in a car and depart, leaving the police tail behind. Danny and his crew drive to find Burns. The two men from Danny's crew put a bomb under Burns's car. Danny waits in the car and observes Burns as he slowly walks the streets. An old woman approaches Burns's car, so Danny reluctantly walks out to get her away. Burns opens the door of the car and in a split second notices Danny nearby, but it's too late. The bomb goes off, taking Burns's life. Sometime later, John Scalish, the head of the Cleveland crime family, passed away from natural causes. Both John Nardi and Jack Licavoli wanted to take his place, but ultimately it is Licavoli who is chosen to be the new boss, as he has powerful friends in New York's 5 families and John does not. Despite his dislike of Danny, who is referred to as the Irishman by Italians, Licavoli would be willing to let him live for now, as long as Danny gives him a cut of everything he makes. The new boss has a sit-down with Danny and his crew, informing them about the 30% tax they have to pay him from everything they make. Danny rudely refuses his terms and insults the Italians. Danny proudly announces that he is in business for himself now and won't give them anything. Enraged by Danny's disrespecting him in front of his men, Licavoli orders his house blown up. One of his men approaches Billy and tries to offer him Danny's business after it's done. Billy takes him out and rushes to inform Danny about the upcoming assassination attempt. He is woken up by the phone ringing and goes downstairs when suddenly a bomb is thrown into his house through a window. Danny quickly covers Ellie as the bomb goes off. The two miraculously survive the explosion that destroys the house. Licavoli is outraged by the incompetence of his men and sends them to shoot Danny at once. They find him in the park, exercising as he always does. An assassin misses the first shot, so Danny starts shooting back at him. The assassin runs away as Danny chases him to his car, still shooting at him. But Danny ran out of bullets, so the assassin escaped. Press interviews Danny about his incredible luck. Having survived 4 attempts on his life, Danny believes that it was God's will that he shall continue living. He proudly announces that he's not afraid of the mob. He even goes as far as telling the mobsters where they can find him during the day, mocking their inability to assassinate him. John has a meeting with Danny. He is unhappy with Licavoli, who tries to take over his business, and offers Danny a chance to become equal partners and take him down together. He agrees, and the two crews begin working together. They start eliminating Licavoli's top men, one by one, preferring to blow them up with car bombs. Licavoli retaliated, so during the summer of 1976, a full-scale mob war took place in Cleveland, including 36 bombings that took the lives of both Nardi's and Licavoli's men. Despite the violent ordeal, Danny proposes marriage to Ellie. He plans to leave Cleveland and start a new life with her in a different place. Meanwhile, in New York City, Licavoli has a meeting with Fat Tony Salerno, a boss of the Genovese family. He is enraged that Licavoli's inability to deal with the Irishman during their little war has become national news, portraying the mob as weak and incompetent. Humiliated by the recent events, Licavoli reluctantly asks Salerno to help him deal with the situation in Cleveland. Tired of the mob life, Danny devises a plan. He wants to start a cattle ranch in Texas and retire there. Amazed by the seemingly crazy idea, John nevertheless gives him a blessing, but cautions him that it would take $2 million to do that. Surprisingly, Danny expects the mob to pay him that sum to stop the war in Cleveland. When Salerno comes to Cleveland, he laughs at the ridiculous proposal. Danny assures him that he's being quite serious and is willing to return Salerno the $2 million once he starts things going. Seeing that they're serious, Salerno says he'll think about it, but Fat Tony has no intention of giving Danny anything. He orders his men to go to Los Angeles and hire Ray Ferrito, a professional mob hitman, to go after John and Danny. Sometime later, the two walk out of their office, happy that things are going well. Suddenly, John's car blows up right behind Danny's back. He runs to John, who is still alive but barely. In a heartbreaking moment, the two friends bid farewell before John passes away. One day, during his daily exercises in the park, Danny spots a suspicious-looking man staring at him from the bench. It's Ferrito. He approaches the man, but Ferrito gets up and walks away towards his truck. Danny points a gun at the hitman and confronts him about his unusual behavior. Ferrito calmly pushes his gun away and tells Danny that he has a problem, after which Ferrito drives away. The hitman drives to Keith's place and lures him out by being in the same car as Danny drives, a green Cadillac. When he comes out, Ferrito shoots him. Meanwhile, another mobster cleverly manipulates Billy into driving with him to the docks to have a meeting with Licavoli's men. When they arrive, the mobster walks away, presumably to call them, and lets Billy perish in the explosion from the container nearby. Joe Manditsky pays a visit to Danny. They drink a few beers and have a friendly chat. With all his key men gone, Danny's position is getting worse every day. Joe informs him that Ray Ferrito is not just your typical mob guy. He's a professional hitman, and he doesn't make mistakes. Joe offers Danny protection if he gives himself up, but Danny refuses the offer, so Joe wishes him good luck and leaves. Ferrito taps Ellie's phone and listens to her conversation with Danny. From the conversation, he finds out that Danny has a dentist's appointment tomorrow at 3 p.m. The next day, Danny drives to the dentist and parks his car in the parking lot near the building. After the appointment, Danny searches his vehicle for any bombs that someone could have planted while he was with the dentist. Young boys on bikes approach Danny, asking him if he is the legendary Irishman everyone is talking about. Danny discourages the boys from trying to be like him and sends them away. One kid refuses to go and keeps staring at Danny. Seeing this, Danny asks him to come closer and gives him his golden necklace with the cross. When Danny opens his car, he notices Ferrito driving away in the van, his hand on the detonator. Even though there was no bomb in Danny's car, the car that was parked near him had one. It is subsequently revealed that after these events, Ray Ferrito became an informant for the FBI, putting the entire management of the Cleveland crime family, including Jack Licavoli, in jail. The Cleveland Mafia has never recovered. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.